a lot of RV factories and a lot of RV dealerships are going to absolutely hate my guts. Why? Because they feel like a video like this is taboo. You're not supposed to talk about this stuff. You're supposed to keep it on the down low. What are you doing? You trying to kill business? I mean, I've heard it all over the years, believe me. But I have found, because of you, the audience, that transparency actually benefits the RV community, the RV industry, and the RV lifestyle in full. In essence, the juice is worth the squeeze. Welcome to HB RV Lifestyle, and today is your May 2026 RV industry update. Now, I'm doing this outside, and there's a big loud freeway. So, no microphone, we're just gonna go for it. All right, now where I'm gonna start, we're gonna try and make this short and brief, is we need to give credit where credit is due. Now, a lot of manufacturers are going to hate me for saying this, but we need to give credit to Brinkley where credit's due. Now, if you've seen my past videos on this, you'll know that I'm not gonna give an exact number. I'm not gonna give away people's names or model numbers. These folks reach out to me in confidence. These people talk to me in confidence, knowing I'm not going to share their information because they're afraid they'll get in trouble or their rig won't get worked on. Lots of fear out there. And I'll tell you where that fear comes from. It doesn't come from Brinkley. It actually comes from a different situation from a couple years ago, okay? Oh, nice diesel truck, meet. Okay. So, I've had attacks by people that are fans of Brinkley because I exposed that their experimental automotive seal really isn't that great of a thing, and that they have some pretty bad water intrusion problems. Now, I figured this was going to be another frame failure, frame flex thing with, like Grand Design had with fifth wheels. I was like, oh great, here we go. Maybe I caught it early. You know, I'll get called a blowhard and I'll get called all the names in the world, but I'm going to freaking fight for these people, because you got wood rot, you got people that spent $100,000+ and feel like they've been ripped off. But kudos to Brinkley, because more than a third of those people that have reached out to me since early 2025 have either been bought out with a non-disclosure agreement, which is normal. For those of you who's gonna scream out, non-disclosure agreement, that means that Brinkley gets to hide behind it. No, a non-disclosure agreement is standard to protect the employees of Brinkley that dealt with the buyout and the consumer. Yeah, you could probably say Brinkley can go, you can't see me, you can't see me. But in my mind, an NDA is necessary during a buyout process. We're not just talking about protecting the companies, but we're also protecting the consumer and protecting the employees dealing with the buyout, maybe if there was an attorney involved, etc., etc. So they've either been bought out, they've had a collateral exchange, or they've had their rig fixed to their satisfaction. Now, what's interesting is that these are some of the first complaints that I was getting. So that tells me that Brinkley has made the decision that they're going to admit, not publicly, but privately, yeah, we had a problem, and we're going to take care of it, and we're going to fix it. Now, is that worth the astronomical money they asked for their units? I don't know. That's up to you. That's your business. It's your money to spend. My personal opinion, no. Okay, there's laws in most states that protect people from stupidity. Not in all. We know there's the Wild West in some states. Virginia, sorry. But the reality is from my perspective, where I stand, when you do the right thing, and you're doing it without bitching and complaining, you earn my respect. No matter if you call me names or not, and you deserve a kudos. Period. Just like with Grand Design and the whole frame failure, frame flex thing. I mean, they have been literally taking care of the problem. Now, why were people all upset? Great segue. Why were people so upset that they didn't want me to reach out to try to help them get their rig fixed or expose them or interview them? Well, that's because they saw what happened to folks with the whole Grand Design frame failure, frame flex situation. They saw attacks from the Grand Design, we'll use Greg Carson's word, cultists. Okay? Oh, you're lying. Oh, Josh the RV nerd said that you're lying. The Badger's lying too, and Josh the RV nerd said the Badger's lying. There was all a bunch of that. Paving new paths. The folks that were the biggest on the front at the very beginning of frame failure and frame flex, they were attacked viciously all over the internet. And a lot of these folks were like, no, screw it. But why do they feed me the information? Well, a lot of companies and people will feed me information across the United States and Canada because people deserve to know what's going on. Now, I'm not going to take credit for anything because I know I'm going to hear that crap. No, I'm not taking credit for it because I'm not the one calling the company and bugging them about fixing my rig or buying me out. You know, I believe these people finally made enough stink, or Brinkley went, well, maybe our exterior seal really isn't that great. Because if Bob Tiffin didn't do it, who is the most innovative guy in the industry, probably isn't going to work in an RV. Or we need to make improvements to it. Or whatever the case may be. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. You know, they still got some of the best usage of space in the industry, and they still have a really kick-ass fifth wheel toy hauler lineup. It's not the best, but their fifth wheel toy hauler lineup's pretty damn good, especially if you're a West Coast purveyor of side-by-sides. Okay. Now let's talk interest rates. So interest rates are very interesting because basically the Fed has laid down the law that they're not going to lower interest rates for a very, very long time. And I've been saying this since 2022. I have been saying this for 4 years. It hasn't changed. Now, my timeline has changed a little bit just because there's been some things that have occurred. Like, I felt that interest rates might get down to 5.5% and 6% by middle of 2027. Based on what was going on at the beginning of this year. You had the Venezuelan oil thing, etc. Now with this war in Iran, I'm going to say interest rates won't come down until 2032. Because there's so much chaos and mess that occurred. Now, I don't think they're going to raise interest rates. But I think the pace and what they were going to lower rates to is going to come to a halt. I think we're going to stay right where we're at. I think 6.99 to 7.99 is going to be the base rate for the next 5 years. We might get a couple 6.5s. We might get a couple 6 3/4. But this is where we're at. Now, how much buying power do you gain if you wait 5 years? None. Because by that time, the manufacturers will have raised the cost of the units, which won't offset the savings in interest rate. So you might as well buy when you're ready to travel, when you're ready to go build memories that don't involve a hotel, an airplane, or a boat. Well, I guess there could be a boat, but you get my drift, like an ocean boat, like a yacht. All right. That being said, I hear a lot of people getting scammed because they truly believe the war in Iran is going to crash the RV market. And they're getting scammed left and right off of TikTok. I'm getting daily phone calls here of people who have given up to $5,000 over the phone on a credit card. And these people open and close accounts, and you can call the cops, you can call the FBI, nothing's getting done. You can call TikTok, nothing's getting done. They're not going to drop them. They're not violating TikTok's policy. They're not violating YouTube's policy. So basically, as long as you don't violate these social media content creation policies, you can scam the crap out of people all day. Of course, I didn't realize, hey, Jake Paul's done the same thing, allegedly. So, frustrating. Extremely frustrating. Why do people believe it's crashing? Because they don't have an education. They want to listen to pundits and politicians and idiot, neurotic media members. Now, when I tell you that RV News and RVBusiness.com and places like that are propaganda machines, it's because they are. They're propaganda machines, just like Fox News, just like CNN, just like MSNBC. They're all propaganda media, state media stations. They're not the real news anymore. Haven't been the real news in a while. When you got a guy with slick back black hair by the name of Jesse Waiters working for you, and he sounds like an idiot every time he opens his mouth, or you have a guy like Anderson Cooper, every time he opens his mouth, he knows he's lying. When you see people like that, you just know it's propaganda media. But see, the RV world's propaganda is very different. The RV world's propaganda is trying to keep investors from selling off stock and dumping stock, and trying to attract new investors to help prop up the value of the company, and at the same time have more borrowing power so they can get themselves through this weird time of excess inventory, because you got a lot of big dealers out there trying to keep manufacturers afloat. And nobody's really stopped to say, hey, wait a minute, time out. Let's get our inventory back to normal. Because we still target 1%. 1%. This is why the RV world will never collapse unless the world economy collapses. I mean, it has to be worse than 08, 09 to crash again. And it's not going to get that bad. It'll get bad, but it's not going to get that bad. So you're targeting 1%. Now, I'm going to tell you, I've been in a state of where gas prices were $8 a gallon in California, and I was still selling a bunch of RVs. Why? Because people who buy RVs, whether it's a truck camper or travel trailer or a fifth wheel, they're not living in them. The majority of people are using them 4 to 5 times a year. They're using them as memory builders. They want to go enjoy the outdoors with the convenience of their own little hotel without setting up a tent, without sleeping in the back of a truck. You got your snowbirds, your retirees, your empty nesters. So if you think the RV market is going to completely collapse, go ahead and keep getting scammed. Keep believing and drinking the juice. Do your thing. It's your money. It's your brain. It's your willpower. You do what you feel is best for you and your family. If you think that a 5-year-old Solitude is going for $11,000 on the internet, and you want to give them $2,000 deposit to lock it up because you truly believe the RV market's crashing, hey, it's your money. It's your phone call to the credit card company to try to get your money back. It's on you. But if you do your homework and you do your research, you're going to find out this industry is too small to crash. 300,000. That's the average. Go take out COVID. Take out COVID-19's lockdown years. Take 2013 to 2025 and take out the 2 COVID years. And you're going to find out that the industry sells on average 300 to 350,000 units a year. That's less than 1% of the total population of the United States of America and Canada every year. Now, there are a lot of people that still buy used. So that's why, the market still is a little bigger than 1%. There are people who buy private party, especially if you're in Arizona or states like Arizona or Nevada, I should say, where if you buy privately, you don't pay sales tax. So there is a market for things. And that's a great segue, because the used RV market is a complete mess and trash right now. It is such bullshit. It's not even funny. And by the way, it starts with private party sellers. And this is about 2 things: ego and unwillingness to lose money. Okay? So it's like people don't want to pay for their mistake they made during COVID. No, I'm not joking. So every time that I get a consignment or a person selling their travel trailer or their fifth wheel or their motorhome, and they bought it prior or after COVID, meaning they bought it in 2023 or sooner, or they bought it in 2019 or older, they're reasonable. They have an understanding. But if they bought in 2020, 2021, or 2022, oh my God, when they hear what the book value of their motorhome is, they have a shit fit. Oh, I'm not losing that much money. And they've heard it from every dealer, and they've heard it from private party buyers that aren't contacting them because they're overpriced on their motorhome. They're overpriced on their travel trailer. Now, a lot of you that have sold your units can attest to this. When you've dropped it down to retail book without any ads, meaning you didn't click every option, you just dropped it down to retail book or somewhere around retail book, all of a sudden your unit's sold. Look, I get it. You overspent during COVID-19. I get it. It's been a couple years now. And for those of you, they were going to dump their inventory and lose hundreds of thousands of dollars on motorhomes. No, they're not. These people have the title in their motorhome and they don't care. They're like, no, I'm not losing. I spent 200 grand on this motorhome. I don't care if the book's $50,000. I'm going to ask 150. And if I can't get 150, that's it. I'm only going to lose 10 grand a year or 15 grand a year in depreciation. I don't care if we all overspent. I don't care if costs went up. I don't care. And housing's becoming that problem too. Now, I'm not going to do a video about that, but housing has literally become that kind of thing where people spend $1 million on a home and it's being valued at 800 grand. Now, the difference is that a lot of people with those million that's overspent during COVID on a mortgage have a 2% interest rate. So it's just, it's one of those things where we have to have an understanding and a reasoning that makes sense, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. Everything has to make sense. I'm gonna put you like this. When I put, on Facebook, I did a 1-minute video on a motorhome that was $40,000. And this $40,000 motorhome was Class C, 25-footer, low miles, had 5 million hits in 2 days. And I had over 500 people reach out to me nationwide to buy that motorhome sight unseen. We sold that motorhome fully paid for, sight unseen, within 2 days. 2 days. Okay. So that tells you that there are more buyers in the market for used motorhomes than there is inventory. But they're not calling the guy that's asking 40 grand for a 15-year-old motorhome. They're calling the guy that's asking 40 grand for a 5-year-old motorhome. See the difference? People are not going to jump like they did during COVID. And yes, even with gas prices, people are constantly surfing, looking for deals. What they consider to be reasonable, what they consider to be, and everybody's consideration is different. Some people think that reasonably priced is $5,000. Some people think reasonably priced is $50,000. Whatever that reasonability factor for you is, there's a lot of people out there doing it. That's a great segue. This is the last time I talk about, because there's a lot of folks that assume, based on propaganda media, that Camping World and a bunch of these other companies are just making money hand over fist. Because when you go on RVbusiness.com, or you go to RV News, or you go to any of these places, they continuously make it out as if Camping World made $1 billion or Lippert made $1 billion. And it's all a fugazi. It's all bullshit. You know, Camping World had $1.35 billion in revenue. That means, revenue means how much money they're bringing in from sales, service, warranty, etc. By the way, if you actually look, there's also a section for real estate. So it's all a fugazi. It's all, excuse my language, it's all fucking fairy dust. Okay? Camping World has lost hundreds of millions of dollars. Will they be profitable this year? Possibly. But they have not been profitable in a few years. They've been struggling. And so is everybody. Especially when you make, and the decision is not in the sale, the decision is in the buy. That's where it is. The decision is in the buy, not in the sell. That's where the struggle is. Camping World overextended itself in used, overextended itself in new, and there's been a course correction since Marcus Lemonis left. But don't be fooled in thinking that Lippert and Camping World are making all this money. They're not. Are there executives? Of course. Is the company? No. Not like you think. Is Lippert profitable? Yeah, if you go read the bottom line, they made some money in the first quarter of 2026. If you look at Camping World, it's not that pretty. If you go look at Blue Compass, it's not that pretty. You go look at Thor, it's a mess. You go look at Forest River, it's getting there. But you got to realize that it's not, people want to yell corporate greed because they don't understand. When you have no education about how to read a financial statement, that's where ignorant comments, corporations are greedy comes from. Now, are corporations, some corporations super greedy? Sure. Oil companies are an interesting bunch, and I'm going to talk about that in another video, because I think there's a lot of confusion on, are oil companies super profitable, or are they just cash rich? And I'll explain that in another video, because that's very interesting. So until next time, remember, RV always stands for toolkit and sense of humor.